Welcome to the official podcast of Cardinals Nation 24/7. Each week, we put a unique perspective on bringing you the latest news, updates, and rumors of the St. Louis Cardinals baseball organization. Join the nation and stay informed by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, subscribing to us on the podcast form of your choice, and most of all, by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you all for supporting the nation. Let's get things started. Here are your hosts, Jared Redwine, Chris Lawless, and Larry Cox. Hello, Cardinals Nation, and welcome to another episode of Cardinals Nation 24/7 video podcast. Thank you for joining us. Joining me, as always, my co-host, the living legend Larry Cox, and the bearded dragon Chris Lawless. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Guys, it's been a busy week since we spoke last. Cardinals have now officially launched full squad spring training, so we'll start off by diving into that. First official day was yesterday, the 22nd, for everyone to report. Basically, we'll go over into just the basics real quick, and I'll circle around if you guys want to throw something in too. But just for everybody out there, obviously, Arenado showed up early to spring training. He was already in Florida. He was ready to go, which was pretty exciting to hear. And it's good to see commitment even from a good veteran player that goes out and consistently performs and is winning awards every year and still putting in the time and effort. Whenever he did get there, though, a lot of people didn't hear that Goldschmidt was already there and Paul DeJong has already been there working on their game, which I'm also glad to hear that. I'd like to see DeJong have a good solid year, similar to what he had 2 years ago. And I think he has a good opportunity to do that this year. Lane Thomas and Tyler O'Neill, Justin Williams, they were also early to spring training camp, which is good. I would like to see Thomas and O'Neill, and hopefully Justin gets a little bit of a chance to play this year a little more. A different look for spring training. Basically, it's an all outdoor setup. If you haven't read or followed yet, they basically have white tents everywhere. It's basically a complete outdoor camp, outdoor weight rooms. Reporters aren't allowed to be close or any of that. You guys, what do you think? I mean, it's good to hear, Chris, whenever you hear popular players and all-stars on the team showing up early to camp. It kind of gives you a little bit of excitement, and you got to think the players are probably excited too.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing that it's pitchers and catchers reporting, but when you do see, some of the other position players there and actually getting to see Nolan Arenado in Cardinal red, where it becomes a little more real that, he's a Cardinal, that's exciting. And, just seeing some of these pictures, of the ball players out smiling, having fun, it gets your blood flowing, that spring training's here. And just some of the pictures that I've seen, John Gant's got a head of hair on him that make Bryce Harper jealous. There's, I don't know, just so many pictures right now of them getting some work in, and, it's making us all feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. And it's exciting to have them coming in. And part of that too is also interesting. Some of these groups, Larry, when they put these groups together, apparently they were testing them for antibodies, which you just found out your test results, and you have them as well. So they were taking some of these groups of players, and if they have the antibodies, which means they've tested positive or had some form of the virus at some point in time, they're putting those players and groups together to, if just in case there is an outbreak, they can try to better isolate. So a lot of smaller groups, a lot of more controlled workouts, putting in the same workouts, but very well timed and into smaller groups. And also Andrew Miller, I saw, had COVID right before camp, so he had to fight and get through that, and then go through the negative testing before he was allowed into camp. And Jordan Hicks has been training and throwing. Looks good. Obviously, still trying to work on his command. And then Larry, I wanted to ask you and come to you. Zach Thompson wearing number 57, former number of Darryl Kyle. What is your opinion, number one, seeing Hicks in camp, throwing well so far, no limitations? Obviously, they're not going to throw him out there, wanting him to throw 105. And then I'll circle back to both of you, but you get your opinion first, Larry, on issuing Thompson number 57.
Well, let's, first off with just the players in general showing up on time and things, and then seeing Hicks. They said he was pretty much ready last year, but then he come down with a stomach issue and all that going on. And with his being a type 1 diabetic, they didn't want to rush it last year, and they knew it was going to be a shortened season. So it wasn't – and the kid skipped AA or AAA baseball anyway, so it's not like he's going to miss a year. So they sat him back last year, just make sure he's full strength. As they ramp up, we know how it goes in spring training. They ramp it up over the coming weeks and get him up to full speed the last week of baseball. It's nice to see him out there just throwing the ball. I mean, because last time we seen him leaving the mound, holding his shoulder, holding his arm, that was a little scary moment knowing that he throws, the 104 mile an hour. As far as the Darryl Kyle, give them issuing the number, I don't see an issue with it. And the reason I don't see an issue with it is because eventually you only have 0 to 1 to 99 numbers anyway. So eventually numbers are going to be scarce, especially with the Cardinals tradition of all the numbers that are on the outfield wall already. Eventually you want those to go to the players that that are in the Hall of Fame and the likes. And unfortunately, that Darryl Kyle's, his career was cut short, but he wasn't a lifelong Cardinal. I mean, I don't want to lessen his effect on this team in any way, but at the same time, I want to be able to say, that the Ozzie Smiths of the world, the Red Shandies, those guys were forever Cardinals, and they made that whole career thing. He was only here for a few years, so that was the other thing. A lot of fans now, they don't even know who Darryl Kyle is, other than just a pitcher that passed away at a baseball game, because they didn't see him. They're the younger fans. So I understand some people's hesitation and both sides of it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because what a lot of people don't know is basically Mozeliak met with the equipment manager, and they're the ones that decided to issue Thompson the number. And he actually had to go look up the importance of the number because they called him ahead of time. He wasn't familiar with the whole story, so he had to do research, and he said that he would be honored to wear the number and represent number 57, which is good to hear. But he wasn't even. But a lot of people were taking it out on him at first, saying he shouldn't take the number. But it was a team. It was a front office decision. They've already got 13 numbers retired, like you were saying, and you got to figure number 4, number 5, number 51, number 50 now with Waino are never going to be reissued. And Chris, your thoughts on the Kyle number, and also just to also throw that out, wasn't his number, but also number 32, which was Josh Hancock, who also passed away tragically while being a member of the Cardinals. That number was reissued since then, and Jack Flaherty actually wore that number last, if I'm not mistaken. But Chris, what are your thoughts? Hicks in camp and number 57 being reissued to Zach Thompson, the left-handed prospect.
Well, I'll start with Hicks in camp. It's exciting. I mean, it's good to see him throwing, and like Larry said, they're going to ramp it up more as spring training goes. And with the young pitching staff that we have, I'm not sure that the Cardinals are weighing heavily on just automatically naming him the closer right off the bat. I mean, I would think that it might be his, but it's something that I don't think that they have to make that decision right now on whether or not he takes that role. But as far as number 57, I agree with Larry too, that this many years after, and it's not to negate the fact that Darryl Kyle was a great pitcher, and that number obviously has a lot of meaning, but that many years later, the Cardinals did honor that by not letting players wear it. And as sad as it was that he passed, him not being a lifelong Cardinal and the fact that you do only have so many numbers, I don't see a problem with it, but I know many did express their angst over it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just glad to see. I think Thompson's a fine young man. He's going to be a great pitcher for us. So reissuing the number, they're trying to give it to someone that they know is going to be around and hopefully be a quality piece for years to come. Also to round out some other camp notes just on reporting, Dakota Hudson is in camp. He's ahead of schedule. Obviously, they don't think he's going to play this year, but it's good to see him there participating in camp and is involved. And then, to close out camp news, there were no positive COVID tests upon, entry into camp. So that's also great news. Now I want to jump into the starting 5, you guys. They've already announced the top 4 positions. Flaherty, KK, Waino, and Nicholas are going to make out the top 4. So that's leaving one spot in the rotation to see who's going to basically go through and take that 5th spot. And they're also saying originally to break camp into the spring and to start the season with potential doubleheaders is they may not name a 5th starter. They may go multiple starters in one game. They may piggyback them for a while due to, not a lot of innings being worked last year and then how the games may look this year. So that sounds pretty interesting. The Cardinals are not the only ones looking at that. Helsley, though, is not in the starting rotation. They're not going to stretch him out. They have already said he is going to be a bullpen piece, which was interesting because he was a starter in the minor leagues, and they've talked about stretching him out before. But they're going to keep him in the bullpen, and with a heavy amount of bullpen arms, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's good news. We have a lot of competition spots going on. You got Hicks, you've got Gigi, you've got Miller, you've got Helsley that are all close games. So it gives us some flexibility when it comes to late innings. But let me switch it out to you, Larry. Who do you think so far in camp, if you had to go out and make your rotation, your fifth starter, who is that going to be today? And then just also summary, who do you got closing your games?
You and I have talked about this before. I'd like to see Reyes get that shot because I think this is his make or break a year. I'd love to see him get that starting nod in the rotation for the season to see how he goes. But I really don't think that fifth spot is – I don't think there's one dominant name right now, to be honest with you. They were talking about Carlos and how good he's been in the Caribbean season. And so who knows, what that transfers over to. As far as the closer role, I would like to see at the beginning of the year maybe a closer by committee. Let Hicks build up. Why throw him out there and him re-injure himself trying to, make sure he nails it down? But when you've got, like you said, 4 or 5 guys that could do it, which guy are you going to call for that night? Why not just make them all be available for that option? Because, with Miller, he's got that option as well. You've got, Galago, he can do it. Then you've got a few other guys in there. Hell, even, the man crush there from Chris Cabrera, he's there. So, and Otavedo. So those guys could, you never know. One of those guys could ramp it up. You got Junior Fernandez. Who knows? There's a lot of arms down there. A lot of them can bring the heat now. So,
yeah. Chris, going to run to you. Who do you think, if you had to make out your top 5, who do you think is kind of a favor to win that spot? And then how do you see the back end of the bullpen also?
Well, as much, as I've kind of been on Carlos Martinez's case on, proving that he's not a head case at times, I think that going into the season, he's going to get that first opportunity to be your fifth starter. If for some reason he does start struggling, they can put him back in the bullpen. Mm-hmm. And then you've got guys like a John Gann or Ponce de Leon that can then take that spot. But I agree with you guys that Alex Reyes would love to see him get an opportunity to start and not just pitch an inning here or there. I think he's more than capable of getting a starting spot. And as far as like a Genesis Cabrera, I think he's better suited right now in the pen. I know we haven't had a lefty starter in a while, but to have that weapon in the bullpen where you've got the lefty and him, you've got Tyler Webb and Andrew Miller, I think he's better suited there. But as far as a closer, I agree with Larry too. I would like to go closer by committee. Gallegos would probably be who I would, if I had to ink somebody in right now, I would probably go with Gallegos, but you don't want to put too much pressure on him right off the bat either. Andrew Miller's done it before, but until Hicks has proven that he can take that spot, I would kind of go with Gallegos or just, closer by committee.
Yeah, no, good points by both of you guys. I actually was reading too where they said, I know you're a Genesis Cabrera fan, and they said he is going to get more touches obviously this spring, so he's going to be stretched out. Didn't say necessarily competing for a starter role, but he's going to be a possible multi-inning type reliever this season. And Reyes, at one point in time, a lot of people forget he was the top pitching prospect in all of baseball, not just the Cardinal system. So he has had a lot of injuries. He's had a lot of bad luck. So it would be nice to see what he is capable of now that he's fully healthy. I do know they're also going to have the same thing with, him possibly, getting injured and pitching a lot. But Carlos Martinez has always seemed to be one of those guys that even when he has started and figured it out, he seems to wear down, toward the end of the season. So maybe this whole piggyback thing will be a good thing for us, maybe to try out.
The one name that I think we overlook all the time is John Gann. I think that's the guy that you just don't know where does he slot in? Where does he fit? Because he's been a starter. He's been the back end of the rotation. He's been the back end of the bullpen in general. He's been the long reliever. He's been the setup guy. He's done it all. And honestly, he's excelled at everything he's done. So I mean, I think we overlook him as fans per se. He's the one dark horse I always kind of pull for Gant just because, his start and everything was not a high profile. It just, hey, there's a guy, we're gonna give him the ball. So, and I think he's always stepped up when needed. So
Yeah, no, I agree. Gant's a good one. He's another one, and Larry Chris has been talking about this all season long, to where he thinks we probably have one of the best bullpens in baseball. And the more you dive into these guys, and you see Cabrera's probably not going to start, and they tell you Helsley's not going to start, and then you have a guy like John Gant, and you also have Martinez that's going to stretch out, and then also in camp, you have Ponce that's going to stretch out, Johan Oviedo, who's another member of the Lawless stable, and Zach Thompson, and you got Liberatore are all going to be stretched out in spring. People don't realize, I don't think as fans, how deep our pitching staff is, and that's great news for us as fans. So then you try to fill out those spots, then you figure out, right now I'm not really trying to figure out who's going to be our fifth guy, because we have a number of people that can do it. It's pretty much, Chris and Larry is who's going to be in Memphis, who's not going to make this team, because we're going to have to make some decisions there and in the outfield. So, I mean, you got to stretch some of these guys out. Thompson and Liberatore are going to get good looks, but I'm assuming, barring injury, I don't think they make the team. I mean, give me your pitching dark horse, Chris. I know you do follow them pretty closely, but who do you see as kind of a sneak out, kind of breakout potential type player this year for the pitching staff?
As much as you guys both kind of razz me about the Genesis Cabrera and the Oviedo, I think the new acquisition that they made, the Johan Cazada, I think he could be, huge kid. And the interview that I saw recently, he's full of confidence. He was kind of comparing himself of what he wants to be as a right-handed throwing Randy Johnson. So, that would be one. But I also think Junior Fernandez could kind of come out of nowhere and take a spot, because he's had some looks. And while he's primarily been a starter, I think he could fit in. We've talked about this too. I don't think the Cardinals will do it, but they've got enough arms that they could go with a 6-man rotation. I don't think that that's what they will do, but there is a possibility. And I've read some of these blog articles about the 5th spot. Would you guys have an opener and maybe Carlos Martinez come in on that 5th day? Maybe have like somebody come in and pitch a couple innings, and then have Martinez take it the rest of the way.
Ooh, that's an interesting question to me. If I was going to do that, I'm going to answer your question, and then I'm going to get Larry's answer, because I don't want to cut him off. But while you got me on it, my sneak up guy in the bullpen and pitching, and I give you a lot of crap, is going to be Johan Oviedo. And in turn with that, I think he could also be potentially that opening guy, comes in and throws 2 good, hard, solid innings. Then you bring in someone like a Carlos to kind of take the workload innings in the middle of the game away. But I think Oviedo would be good at that. He looked good last year, or maybe even Reyes could too, because he's, he comes out, he's high intensity, throws hard. And Hicks may be your right-handed Andrew Miller this year. It's going to make it tough on somebody like him coming back being injured, because, with the new rule of the 3 batters. But if you've got a situation to where you can bring Hicks in for an out or two, something to work quick, would be nice to have. Larry, so Chris's question to you too. I mean, who are your thoughts on, doing maybe the opener type thing, and then who's your pitching,
I think, honestly, I think my dark horse in this is Jake Woodford. I think 2 years ago, that kid, he really lit people up in spring training, and he almost forced them to keep him on the 40-man roster 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Last year, not so well. He wasn't as impressive last season as he was the year before, but I think he was trying some different pitches to add to his arsenal as well. I think for an opener, why not throw a Tyler Webb or somebody like that, a lefty, just to throw him off, then bring in your Reyes or Martinez, and let them, right-handers, kind of a la, what Tampa does to a lot of teams. They bring that lefty in to get the lefties out up front, then they remove him after that first inning. They bring in a right-hander to go 5 or 6 innings. But the problem with that is then you got Webb that, he's a specialist. He's the left-handed guy that's going to match up with lefties. But I think if you're going to do a starter, I think you want the opposite hand pitching. I don't think you want a righty to a righty, just because it throws the other the roster off a little bit in their order. So,
yeah, that's a good point too. Staggering the lefty righty, and depending on how the opposing team looks, I mean, you could always run Cabrera out there to start 2 innings, or even 1 inning. Depending on how heavy the front end of the the batting order is for the opposing team. If you've got 3, of 5 lefties coming up, maybe it's a situation where you throw him out there and then you bring in Reyes after that and see what you got. But just kind of like how you said, Woodford, and then we've got Whitley. We've got a lot of guys on this team that we're going to have a hard time finding spots for. And Quezada's a good young guy too, that you brought him up, Chris, and I appreciate you sharing his press conference yesterday. That was exciting to watch, and I suggest everyone check it out on Cardinals.com or on Cardinals Nation 24/7 Facebook page. That was a really good interview that he had.
How do you do that? Is that come from delivery, or is there something more to it?
I think it's more about focus. Stay focused, and don't mind what happened in the last pitch. Just stay in control. That's the main goal. That's the main thing.
Of guys, we got Nolan Gorman. You guys, so far, Mozeliak says the reaction to him at second base has been, really encouraging, which sounds like a typical Mo response. But they said he looks good from a physical standpoint. He's been flexible, moving well. Showing versatility, in spring, and he did ask to report early, and they did allow it because you have to have special permission to report because of COVID. But they say he's been working really hard with Okendo and Stubby Clapp. And so I think, those are all good signs. He's got a bat now. It's finding a way to get that in the lineup. What are your early thoughts on him maybe being our potential second baseman of the future, since third base is held down now? Chris, I mean, it's pretty encouraging to see he wants to report early. He is a good player. He's still a young kid, so he's obviously not too cocky and not worried about it. He's not being told where he's going to play. He knows he needs to be versatile, and he's trying to be proactive.
Yeah, I know Nolan Arenado had some kind words, for Nolan Gorman to, basically saying, hey, I know coming over here, it kind of puts him in a position where, I've taken over third base and that's his spot, but his willingness to go over to second, try to get some reps in and learn a new position, that speaks to the maturity and the him being a team player. So that's good. And I do think he's a couple years away from making a major league debut, but if he can learn that position and, come up possibly next season, then you can always move Edman maybe to an outfield spot. At that point, you may have the DH, so Gorman may, slot in a DH role. But I think, it's exciting that he's learning a new position, and from all reports that we've heard, doing well and very open-minded to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Larry, we've all heard about Gorman and his power bat. They say he makes all the necessary plays at third, but maybe second will be a even easier transition for him now. I mean, you don't have to worry about turning the aggressive double play anymore and keep his bat in the lineup. And usually whenever you don't have to worry as much defensively and you can focus more on other things, usually it makes you a little bit better of a hitter. What are your thoughts so far early on with Nolan Gorman?
I've liked the kid's attitude ever since they drafted him. He's always been that kid that's coachable. That's a word you just don't hear in major leagues anymore. He's manageable. He's the kid that's going to do what has to be done. For him to give up his vacation time, the off season, and to show up early because he knows, hey, I'm blocked at third. So unless I want to get a new uniform, I'm going to have to learn someplace else. But as you guys were talking about this, I got thinking about it. What if the guy comes up and rakes? What if he hits the crap out of the ball? He forces himself onto this team. Maybe Edman becomes that utility infielder. We don't get a Sosa. We keep Gorman. Gorman becomes the second baseman. It's not like we haven't had a second baseman that hasn't been the best of fielders. I mean, I remember a guy named Matt Carpenter that played second base for a while. We brought a center fielder in to play second base. The Cardinals are notorious for, Albert Pujols playing left field, Duncan playing left field. So it's not like it's not unheard of. So maybe Gorman forces his way onto this team with his bat. And if he's above average or even at average second baseman, sure, we're going to miss the Gold Glove at Wong. But if this guy's crushing, say, 20 home runs, does that make up for Wong's Gold Glove loss?
That's a perfect point, which also is a perfect segue. So thank you, Larry. Have bat will play. So that brings us to the next topic is Matt Carpenter. Matt Carpenter finds himself as a man without a position. So, and he's bringing all his gloves to spring training, including his second base glove, where he was an all-star, by the way. So it's going to come down to one spot for him, not necessarily in the field, but it's going to come to his bat. If he's swinging his bat and he's hitting, they're going to find a way to work him into that lineup. So he's going to have to be creative on finding ways to get his bat in the lineup. I was actually reading too. Mo did actually call Carpenter before they did the Arenado trade to let him know that the deal was official. So I do kind of like that, in the fact that the team does have respect for its players to call and say, hey, you're basically losing your spot in a nice way. And Carp was very positive about it and happy about the move, and knew he was going to have his work cut in for him, which I think he knew at the end of last year anyways, and the year before that, because he's had a couple of down years. But, in 2012, I guess it was 9 years ago now, he was sixth in the National League Rookie of the Year voting. He started 10 games at 3 different positions, and that was third, first, and right field. The very next year, 2013, he was fourth in MVP voting and won a Silver Slugger at second base, where he played 128 games. He had never played at the prior year. 2014, it was even more interesting for him. He didn't start any games, at second base, but he did play 156 at third. And 25 games were in the outfield in his whole career. So he does have that. Shield pretty much nixed that idea the other day and said he will not be playing in the outfield. So, in the spring, you're going to see him at DH, first, second, third. Matt Carpenter, they pretty much already said Tommy Edman's going to be the second baseman. He's going to be the starting second baseman. Where do you see Carp fitting in? Do you see him fitting in? What do you see for him, Chris? I know he's done everything the Cardinals have asked him to do throughout the years, which is something that you like to see. But just that's why I wanted to kind of touch on those different years. He kind of started and played a few positions. Then he was all at second. Then he was all at third. And then the first base experience there where he started to go downhill. What do you see for Matt Carpenter, probably his last year wearing the birds on the bat?
Well, I know we've talked about it before, and I know a lot of our fan base, they have that mentality of what have you done for me lately? Not what have you done over the course of your career? And he's been a team player where he's hit anywhere in the lineup that they've asked him to be, whether it was lead off or, taking different positions on the field. Originally I thought maybe it would be a platoon with him and Tommy Edman at second, because you just have a hard time wrapping your head around that they're going to bench a guy making as much money as what he's making. But, with this being his final year under contract, I think he's going to embrace that role. And if it comes to spelling a guy a day off, or, maybe platooning at second base, I could see it. For years now that we've seen this Matt Carpenter, when he comes up, it's almost like he would rather take a walk than to get a hit. Like he just sees too many pitches. And when he does swing, it almost looks like he's got that hitch in his swing, almost like he's got a broken rib or something, where he's not fully extending on his swing. I know he's talked about wearing batting gloves this season, something that he hasn't done before. And, a lot of the fans are kind of anything that'll work, if it's salsa, take a bath in it at this point. We've got to have something from him. But I think going into this year, knowing that it could be and probably will be his last in a Cardinal uniform, he's going to be super focused and will take any position that they give him. I just hope that he is successful.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'd be nice to see him end the career in St. Louis on a bit of a high note. He's in the second year of a 2-year contract extension, Larry. He does have an $18.5 million option for next year, but he's going to need more at bats, and he's probably going to be able to get to make that thing trigger. Basically, it was a 2-year, $39 million deal. But a lot of people forget, just in 2018, he hit 36 home runs and was ninth in MVP voting. And the past 2 seasons, though, he's hit an abysmal 216 with the 702 ops. So DH would play well for Carp, but there is no DH currently, and that could change up until the last, day before the season begins, but probably not. Where do you see Carp slotting? You said I'm going to go with Gorman if he comes out with his bat plays, maybe he'll win. Maybe if Carp comes out and tears up in the spring, it's only going to help his cause.
Well, I mean, I guess as fans, we forget to look at that. You know, a couple years ago, Goldie played 163 games that year, and then DeYoung plays like 164. So if we play an average of let's just say 5 games a week, Carp could play first base on Monday. He could play second base on Tuesday. He could play third base on Wednesday, and get just as many at bats as everybody else, and keep everybody fresh. Because I think in years past, I think this team has run out of gas because we didn't have those guys on the bench that were dependable backups. They were all young kids, or they were the utility, make them fit the round peg square hole. And I think there's going to be enough at bats for Carpenter. We still have interleague play where they're going to play. He's going to be DH in those games. So I honestly think they're going to keep him there where he's not going to get enough at bats where it triggers that extension and that the option. So I think they're going to maintain his bats, but I think it's going to be spots. But again, if you're Wrigley, after every year he's ever played against the Cubs in Wrigley, isn't he the guy you want coming up to the plate? I mean, he's killed the Cubs in Wrigley. So you find a way to get him on the field whenever you can, I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense. And, hopefully he can find a way to do it. But like we said, if he comes out and he plays well in spring and he's hitting the ball, then Schilt and Mozeliak are going to have tough decisions to make. Fans would like to see him play, but he's got to be able to actually go out and earn it. And it would be nice to have some of his power from 2018 in the lineup with Goldie and Arenado for sure. Now, guys, I want to do something a little different here. I want to throw you guys a question. And it's going to be multiple choice. I don't want you guys to get into long supportive answers, but I'm just going to see how you guys choose. It took me a while to come up with a couple of interesting ones for you. So here's my first one. Okay, Chris, you're putting together a new team. You get to pick one of the following for your shortstop position: Khalil Green, Tyler Green, Pete Kozma, or Brendan Ryan. Who and why?
Oh man, I shouldn't even ask if in their prime, but I would probably go with.
We'll say yes. They're all in their prime.
They had a prime.
Yeah, I would probably go. Probably Pete Kozma.
Okay, all right. Yes, he's living off the fame against the Nationals. Larry, same question to you: Khalil Green, Tyler Green, Pete Kozma, or Brendan Ryan?
I again would go Pete Kozma. I mean, I think he had the best glove of the bunch. Can't beat defense.
Okay. Good choices. I am just going to let you guys know I was going to pick Khalil Green, but San Diego Padres Khalil Green before we got him. I got one more for you guys. Okay. Game 7 of the World Series. You're up by 1, bottom of the 9th. Opposing team has a runner on third base. Okay. 2 outs, a can of corn is hit to left field. It's a dark night, and it's raining. Who is your man in left field? Chris Duncan, Matt Adams, Marcell Ozuna, or Matt Holliday?
Oh, man, I'll go with Holliday.
Okay. All right. Matt Holliday. Larry?
I'm going to go with Marcell Ozuna, man. At least he had the gold glove.
Yeah.
Was there a fence involved?
Yeah, it's a can of corn. It's back to the wall. He's climbing that son of a bitch.
Oh, there's a runner scoring. How bad are we winning or losing?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, obviously you have the stuff, Duncan's not around anymore, but then you have the Matt Adams experiment, and you have Ozuna, and then you have
brutal.
Holliday who made it work, but was not the best. I mean, he had the infield fly thing. Well, between him and Pete Kozma, maybe your guys is out there. You can figure it out.
Oh man.
And then one more question here for you guys. Okay, a 1-game wild card playoff to advance. Who is your starter? Todd Wellemeyer, Sidney Ponson, Jake Westbrook, or Rick Ankiel?
I'll
You
go
got to
with
think about the pressure. You got to put the pressure in there too.
Yeah, we can't have the yips going on. I'll go with Westbrook.
Westbrook, okay. Larry?
I'll go with Ponson just because he was fun to watch.
It's fun to watch. You like to drink, fight people. Yeah.
If he
I was
hits
gonna
you,
pick-
you know it's good.
Yeah. I was going to go with Jake Westbrook as well, just because he won Game 7 of the 2011 World Series. So, yeah, good. I just put those together. I thought I might as well mix it up, have a little excitement. I
Yeah, that
guess
was fun.
excitement.
That was fun. Yep.
Exciting as we get.
The
So
nerds
right off
that
the
we
spring
are.
training. Yes, that's all. I sat there for weeks, everyone, and that's the best I came up with. I was gonna say, who do you have at shortstop with the spring training competition? Ozzie Smith or? No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't gonna go that far.
Ozzy still wins. I don't care.
I don't want people getting mad about the Clayton situation with Tony. Tony's coming back to manage
Don't
this
bring
year.
it up. Don't bring
The
it
White
up.
Sox fans already hate him, and he hasn't even started. He started drinking though again because he got
Yes,
another DUI.
there's beer in the dugout.
Last last main guy I want to talk about in for Cardinal spring training camp is Kinsner. Obviously, this is an interesting year for him. This offseason, he did study a lot of video on late game situations. I wanted to scrutinize him to try to get some better experience. He was actually, researching, hitters' cold zones and different metrics for high pressure outs. And I got to reading about him a little more, and I guess, he is an engineering major in college. So I guess, he's a big numbers guy and does keep track of things. So he hasn't had a lot of that experience himself other than watching. So he wanted to take in as much as he could in the off season. He's coming in basically his third year behind Yachty on the depth chart. He's not been guaranteed to be the backup the last 2 years because we had, Wieters signed and everyone thought it was going to be him. Now we've picked up Heineman, and then you have Sanchez on the 40-man roster. So basically, to you guys, want to know how much playing time you think Kinsler is going to get. And the Cardinals have started to use the word succession, for Yachty. They're starting to plan his exit, and I think that was probably part of the conversation the Cardinals had with Yachty when he re-signed his deal, is that they want to start looking into that. Due to where he is in his career and the balance the Cardinals are trying to find, per Mozeliak's words. He said, they're looking at 2021 and they know they have to find a balance of playing time between Yachty and Kinsner. And Heineman said Yachty was basically his idol growing up and his influence, and basically wears the same catcher's gear. Yachty was the first one to wear the Air Jordan catcher's gear. So he wears it too and has his own little line. And Herrera, a lot of people have noticed he's begun to emulate Yachty from the squat and the way he catches the ball and the way he calms pitchers down during the game. But Molina then came out and said right after that he wants a 10th Gold Glove this year, and he wants to prove he can play again next year. So, Chris, where do you see with Yachty and what Mo says and then what Yachty says? And, there's been a little bit of conflict with social media with Yachty. Where do you see Kinsler falling into this, or do you see him just basically being the next Carson Kelly?
Unfortunately, I do see him kind of being the next Carson Kelly, but as far as playing time, at best, I think one day a week that he's named the starting catcher, and Yachty has to not catch these double heading games. Let Kisner have a go at one of them. But I think a day a week, I don't think Yachty's, I'm not saying he runs the show, but he wants to be out on the field. And if he's producing at the clip that he did even prior to, if he was putting up numbers that he was last season, I'd say you play him as much as you want to, but you've got to save those legs, because he is aging, and for him to even be talking about another year, I don't see him wanting to set out more than a game a week.
Yeah, I agree with you. Larry, what about you? How do you see AK falling this year with Yachty being back, and do you see him getting much playing time?
I think he's got the toughest spot in spring training. He's got the hardest hill to climb as far as it goes. I agree with Chris. He has to catch at least once a week. If not, even maybe if there's blowouts by the 4th or 5th inning, he has to come in and take over for the last innings. If Yachty's serious and they're really going to make a run, 12 and 21, then he has to be healthy come October, and he has to be man enough to realize he's not 24 anymore. Personally, I don't like the talk of him starting the whole I'll be back in 22 stuff. He just signed. Let it go. Let's get through 21. Then he can discuss it all he wants after the season. And I think the whole catching thing is going to be – I think it's going to be a shit show this year for the whole catching thing, the whole season, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play everyone out and where everyone plays and where Herrera's going to fall in. And then you've got Sanchez, who's also a very capable catcher. So, and I'm assuming Heineman's probably going to be your taxi squad guy. Maybe Sanchez. I don't know. A lot of people think Kinsler is going to be in Memphis, but I don't see that happening. I see him being on the big league squad. And depending on I think we're going to go back to kind of how we said about Gorman and Carp earlier. I think if Yachty's performing, playing well, looks like he's got energy, looks rested, looks good, he's hitting well, he's calling the games properly, then I see, he will continue to play. If not, he's going to get a longer leash than most, but as that continues to go on, therefore you will see more of Kinsler. So I guess, the season's just going to dictate, and we'll see how it ends up playing out.
So what if God forbid Yachty does go down? So then what happens? I mean, you're telling these other two guys they're not worthy of even a week of playing time, as Yachty right now saying it's my time to take it. What if he goes down with an injury at 39? It could be, that could be career threatening. So which one of these guys all at once now, oh yeah, you're good enough now?
Yeah, well, I think that goes around with all of baseball. I mean, any position, any player at any time is a lot of people aren't good enough until they are. Rosarena hadn't got a shot if Meadows and them hadn't been hurt either.
Who?
He's a guy we used to have. Most of the fans didn't know who he was either until we traded him.
Yeah.
They knew that he recorded a video he wasn't supposed to in the locker room, and then that he got traded.
Oh, he's the guy who brought his Lipitor. Never mind. I know he is now.
Yeah, he shared a locker with Luke Voigt. But I think a lot of these guys are never is or never was until they are. So, if Yachty goes down, then definitely Kinsler's going to be starting every day. It'll be his job to lose, just like it's Yachty's job to lose until Yachty is gone from the team, I think.
The thing about Kinsler too is, you want the guy to have playing time. Same kind of obstacle that we had with, you don't want to call up a Dylan Carlson if you're not going to play him every day. But at the same time, he's accomplished everything he needs to at the AAA level. He's proved that he's, major league ready. It would be a disservice, I think, to send him back down just to get reps in every day. I think he's going to provide the same numbers as what he's put up and just showed you what he's capable of doing. So I think he's going to be well deserving of some time to be split with Yachty.
I think so too. And Chris, do you want to also mention to everybody you're on the radio today? Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, yesterday I was a guest.
My bad.
No, that's fine. On the Midmo Sports Show, it's a local ESPN 107.3 here in Raleigh. A friend of mine, JP Maxwell, who's also a member of the Cardinals Nation 24/7 group, he had me on. We talked some Cardinal baseball, and you can find that on Apple Podcast. It's the Midmo Sports Show, and we'll be trying to have JP on at some point to be a guest with us on here.
Midmo Sports Show, and what was the FM again?
It's 107.3 FM. It's local here in Raleigh, Missouri, but you can go to ESPN1073.com and you can listen anywhere on the internet there.
Nice. And that is what you need to know to have an opportunity to win this Nolan Gorman bobblehead that was supplied to us by Jason Mott, the general manager of the Peoria Chiefs, Cardinals minor league affiliate. We're going to give away this Nolan Gorman bobblehead. Send us a message with that FM dial station and the name of that show that Chris was on, and you'll be entered in to win this, which we're going to give away next week.
Sounds awesome.
Larry, you have anything you want to throw out here before we wrap it up?
I mean, just as the season, the spring season continues, The other thing is the biggest question is going to be, what channel is it on? Can I watch it?
Yes, that's been a lot of the question already. And the best answer I have for everyone out there is to get the MLB TV subscription, which I have, and I can watch a lot of them. But if you're in a bad spot like Larry, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get to see it anyways.
Larry's in a bad spot.
Larry's in the middle, and he's like in home territory of 4 different teams. So
Literally, the White Sox, Cubs, Reds, and the Cardinals are all 3.5 to 4 hours from me. I am in blackout hell.
sounds amazing.
I did want to give some shout outs to you guys. On Facebook, we reached a milestone. Our Facebook page is 60,000 followers now, so that's pretty amazing. We have became the largest Facebook fan group as far as St. Louis Cardinals, so that's pretty exciting stuff too.
Oh wow!
And I wanted to really shout out Jared with the editing that he's been doing on the podcast here, on doing the music intro and putting some clips in here and there, and those snazzy T-shirts that you can see in the background behind you. Those are pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, ESPN trying to hire me for doing some editing and stuff. I told them I was busy. Big deal. I said they really liked the poop emoji I put by Larry's head last week, and they're like, "Oh, that was so cool. We'd like to do that. Can you?" I was like, "Guys, you're not getting these. You're not getting this talent. You can't." My contract with Cardinals Nation 24/7 is got 10-year personal services contract after I retire, so I can't even go anywhere. I'm just like Albert.
JP's trying to steal Chris, and ESPN Maine is trying to steal you. I'm here all alone in a couple of weeks because we all know nobody wants me.
Hey, listen, as soon as they get rid of the State Farm's going to come knocking. As soon as that Jake guy runs his course, you're going to be in all those damn commercials.
There you go.
Don't even worry about it. We're all going to be rich in no time. So, okay, Chris, where can everybody find you?
Well, you can find me at Cards Nation 247 on Twitter. You can find me on our Facebook page, Cardinals Nation 24/7, and the Facebook group, Cardinals Nation 24/7. Weekly here with you guys doing this show, which, I know we kind of do our side projects, but this is where we want everybody to be tuned in, subscribing, and like and share these videos out. It does us a huge service for you guys to not just enjoy the content we're putting out, interact with us, leave us some comments here on YouTube and on the posts that we share this stuff out on, but like and share with a friend so it gets the word out. Also, the side project I've been doing, that's a once a week thing called Cardinal Cuts with Chris Lawless. You can find it. It's now available on Apple Podcasts as well. And I think you've been doing some stuff with your side project as well.
Yeah, I'm doing a side project also called Redbirds with red wine. So it was a real clever think up of the name there. It's been going off and on for a while, but I'm trying to focus more on the minor league guys, which I think everybody's hearing more about for spring training. And we got a lot of good young guys coming up. So that's kind of the main focus. I went through a bunch of prospects last week, and I'll continue to update how they're looking in camp this week. I'll probably touch more on Zach Thompson, the guy that has Joe Kyle's number now, just so people get a better feeling and understanding of him and who he is, a little more background on him. So I'm putting that out usually once a week. You can find that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Anchors, where I focus that at. But this is a lot of fun for me. I mean, I like doing the editing and stuff and doing this show with you guys. It's a lot of fun, and maybe I get carried away with the hearts and stuff when I'm talking about Chris's favorite players, but it keeps me entertained when I'm going through hours of this. It takes longer than you think. And Larry said, and you can find Larry on your blocked list on Facebook.
Goals. You must have goals in life. You don't put them to paper, they're just dreams.
Larry has been talking about doing his own thing, but until we get some stuff worked out with the FCC,
it's not any fun with it. Just here's Larry Cox, bleep.
Yeah, and that's too much editing. Nobody wants to do that. So check us out on Facebook page and Facebook group at Cardinals Nation 24/7. Please like, comment, and subscribe here on the YouTube channel. If you're an audio person, you can also find us on Spotify and Anchor and places in any other place you can basically listen to an audio podcast. If you have a certain format you like to use and you can't find us, let us know and we'll figure out how to get it on there. But other than that, I don't have anything else. So I'll wrap it up and say thanks for stopping by and watching, and go Cards.
Go Cards.
Yep. Go Cards.